Well, hello there. You are watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the associate editor of the Daily Mirror, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail columnist, Amanda Platell, with us from now until just before midnight. Plenty to discuss today, I think, don't you? So let's check out the front pages then, shall we? And after the Supreme Court struck down the government's plan to ship migrants to Rwanda as unlawful, the Financial Times reports that Rishi Sunak is now planning to change UK law to sidestep the ruling. The Metro too says the PM has a plan to still get his way and start flights to Rwanda next year. That promise also the lead story for tomorrow's Guardian newspaper, the PM vowing to push through his plan. Telegraph too, with that angle, the PM will use an emergency law to restart those Rwanda flights, or start rather, as does the Times, which says the PM will do whatever is necessary to deport migrants. This is the Express. PM fights back. We will deport migrants. And this is the Sun's take on it as well, commenting on how fed up Mr Sunak must now be. Well, the Daily Mail's Quentin Letts writes the front page for his paper, describing what he calls Rishi Sunak's ice blue anger at that Supreme Court ruling. The Eye leads with today's bigger-than-expected inflation fall, which means pensioners are in for a rise in April that is double the current rate. Kevin's paper, The Mirror, has news of a row over a new book, which reportedly reveals private details of the Queen's death last year. And the Daily Star tells us to expect snow by the end of this month as temperatures start to fall rapidly. I hope not. My heating's been broken for 3 weeks now. Anyway, a reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers while you watch us. Hot water bottles. You gasped.
You're kidding me?
Yeah.
3 weeks without eating?
Yeah.
Just think how much you've saved.
No, we've had fun.
You always think about
well,
I just think how much I would just shiver.
You've got to look on the bright side.
Through. It's getting quite expensive to keep trying to fix it.
Yeah, the glass has to be half full, not half empty.
Okay.
I mean, you know.
You can come and stay at my place, Anna.
Oh, that's really kind. Lovely. As long as you've got like a fluffy throw or something, because I'm properly thawed now. Anyway, should we talk about what's happened today?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because a lot has happened. So Kevin and Amanda, welcome to both of you. Let's kick off with any number of newspapers that are leading on the Rwanda ruling by the Supreme Court. And out he comes later on today, Rishi Sunak out fighting.
Yeah, an absolute crushing defeat. The UK Supreme Court, calling in not just the European Convention of Human Rights, which Tories don't like, or some Tories don't like, but also the United Nations Convention on Refugees and UK domestic law. Absolutely crushing. And then, of course, you've got a kicking at PMQs, but then he comes out fighting in the afternoon with this idea of emergency legislation. Now, if that emergency legislation just says Rwanda is safe to send refugees, there'll be a whole series of legal challenges again. You can just see going through the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and back to the UK Supreme Court. So the talk is tough, but let's see if you can walk it. I mean, personally, I think the whole Rwanda deal was a big con anyway, because it's only a few hundred, it's not tens of thousands.
You're going to stop and let me say something?
40 million, yeah.
Does that ever happen?
But not yet.
It's the deterrent effect, isn't it? That's the point.
Yeah, but it's not
the numbers
but it's not a deterrent if it's only a few hundred and you've got 30,000 people coming, which actually is well down on last year, isn't it? Because it was 45,000 last year.
I know.
I mean, but that's not the deterrent. That's just because you get better enforcement, and also Albanians now, they'll be sent back under the deal, which is probably the way to do it, not try and dump people in Rwanda.
Yes, you know that scientists
Have you finished?
say correlation doesn't equal causation. And just because the figures are down, it could just be that we had a heat wave last year and had terrible weather.
And terrible storms, yes.
Terrible storms this year.
And there can be a lot of... are you actually going to let me speak?
I was just saying, but you told me to stop.
No,
you didn't tell Anna, did you? I mean, that's really
sorry.
sexist.
Anna
isn't it? You can speak, but I can't.
Anna is the boss, and she's also freezing without heating for 3 weeks. I have some sympathy.
Yeah.
I feel great consternation coming on tonight because I'm supposed to be here as the Conservative. I am a Conservative, lifelong one, and today I despaired at all of this news. You know, we see Rishi Sunak appearing at that sort of botched up faux COVID presentation saying, stop the boats. It reminded me of, stay home and don't kill each other. And I just thought the whole thing felt completely faux. It felt totally fraudulent to me. To come out suddenly to say, oh, we're going to bring in emergency legislation and we're going to stop all of this. And yet he will not go to the point, and he never said it. I listened to all of his speeches today. I'm a sad person with heating in my home. and I listened to all of it, and he never once said, I will renege laws outside of this country. He said, I will challenge them, I'll go close to it, I'm thinking about it, I'm really, really considering it. But he never said that.
But Amanda...
And again, because he's such a lefty, Rishi.
But Kevin's made this point. It's the UK court that has stopped this policy under UK laws. And that you know, you don't need to worry about the ECHR.
But
right
actually, there's a...
All the other conventions.
No, there is a worry for your reputation as a nation.
Okay.
If you're seen of ditching these commonly used laws about human rights that are respected throughout the world. There's a big gamble in doing that. But the right wanted him to ditch it and to say, we will come out of this. He did not do that. He did his usual thing, skated around the edges.
Because you know, they do not want to be lumped with the other people that, you know, are not signatories of it, which is Russia and Belarus.
Russia,
I mean, do you want to be with them?
No, it's just... I just thought that the whole thing today was a pantomime. You know, he gets completely slapped down, and then he comes out at a press conference at 4:45, and then you've got the who was it before? Our new Home Secretary,
James Cleverly.
James, coming out saying, we've done all these things, we've achieved this in the last year, and we've got a plan, when the person who achieved all of that is Suella Braverman, who they sacked on Monday.
Yeah, but you know, the European...
James hadn't done it, Rishi hadn't done it.
The European Convention of Human Rights, which the UK promoted and lawyers wrote it after the Second World War, is for us all. It's not just for asylum seekers, refugees, migrants, it's for us all. It's been used, for instance, to stop teachers beating kids in schools. It's been used by disabled people to enforce their rights. It's been used by people, the right to medical treatment. It's been used by women so they can't be aggressively questioned and humiliated when they're alleging rape in court cases. It's for us all. And I think if Britain pulled out, we would be with two pariah states in Europe. We would be with Belarus.
It would be incredibly popular
with
a large number of Conservatives.
Yeah, because they don't think it through.
And he would never get close enough. And now he's brought in David Cameron, who's so enthralled to Europe, as we all know.
Yeah, but it's not the European Union, though, is it? Right, you just got to remember that.
Over the place.
Yeah. Well, Natalie Elphig, MP for Dover, who clearly is on the front line of this effectively, you know, thinks Rwanda should be junked and actually praised David Cameron for being in very close relations with President Macron, which allows part of the policy to the deal with France to...
let's hope she didn't get into a close relationship with China.
Yeah, but you know, the deal with Albania is the way forward. It's painstaking, it's difficult. Rwanda was always something of a con. There was always a tiny little bit of me that hoped it would get through.
Oh, you're lying.
And the reason is because it would be shown to be unworkable. It wouldn't deliver what was promised because the deterrent effect wouldn't be great enough. It's incredibly expensive.
When Anna goes like that, it means you have to shut up.
No, it doesn't. We've got the Times now. Sunak, many of the newspapers going on this emergency law, which could save the Rwanda policy, of which there was vagueness, and nobody in that news conference actually asked him how those would work, or this treaty, which I found fascinating. Suella Braverman said in her resignation sacking letter, that there was no plan B. Well, he came out with, effectively, plan Bs, which was a treaty with Rwanda and emergency legislation.
He said, and who would have worked on that? It would have been her. And he said, we've been working on this for several months. Well,
several hours.
It would be very interesting to see what Suella says when she comes out with her evidence about how he was not interested in it whatsoever.
He changed the story by coming up, dreaming this emergency legislation. Because in the morning, he's just humiliated, crushed. It's a disaster for him. Yeah. And then he comes out fighting, and he's turned the headlines round for a short while. But can he pull off the trick? He would not say that people will go to Rwanda before the next election.
Exactly.
He kept
asked
dodging
again and again, and he just said, I'm hoping in the spring.
OK. Yeah, we saw the Telegraph as well. The PM will use emergency laws to start Rwanda flights. The Guardian as well. PM vows to push through Rwanda plan after court rules it's unlawful. And the bottom line was, quite frankly, Rwanda isn't safe enough for migrants, and that you could be sent there as somebody from Afghanistan, and you could then be sent back to Afghanistan when you had possibly worked for the UK, for example.
And also...
a word that we all learned today.
That was the most graphic example of how wrong it could go. But Rishi gave nothing in his emergency press conference to the nation
Except forcing, presumably, this treaty would force Rwanda to accept certain nations
what
as
does that treaty mean, Anna?
being impossible to send people back to. That's the
But of course, the judgment points out that in Rwanda, the rule of law is not respected in the way it is by most people in the UK. Not people like 30p Lee Anderson, who says, just ignore the law. I never thought... the Tory party's always billed itself as the party of law and order, and now some MPs just want to be lawlessness and disorder and ignore the law. But of course, there is a problem with freedom of speech in Rwanda. There's a problem with people just being detained arbitrarily. There is a problem with judges and tribunals not being independent, where you can see in the UK it is.
Pick another country. Don't go to Rwanda. Go somewhere else.
Well, that is what the judgment said.
Well, that's what a lot of countries in Europe are trying to do, as I heard you discuss last night in your show.
I read that Italy was thinking about Albania.
Italy, France, Germany, is it Sweden and Denmark are all looking for places because this model can work. We just picked the wrong place.
I think it's very unlikely a decent democracy would allow itself to be used as a dumping ground. Basically accepting people with a bounty on their heads.
And just quick question. The Sun, and in fact the Daily Mail, are talking about how fed up he is. He's had this reshuffle, another reset, landed badly, you might say, in some quarters of the Conservative Party. Questions about David Cameron, as there were always going to be. Did you see him as fed up? Is that a good thing that he comes across as cross and determined, do you think, Amanda?
I thought he came out at Prime Minister's questions quite fiery. I thought that Keir Starmer ate him for breakfast, or it's actually lunchtime, isn't it? Pre-lunch. And that he did come out. It's almost as though he'd had a kind of style guru there saying, you're going to be fierce, you're going to you're going to be absolutely perfect, and you're going to go out and you're going to be really determined you're going to do this, and you're going to have to tell people a whole pile of things that...
OK.
Comes out as a loser. I mean, again, isn't it? He's lost again. That's what it is. Now, it's incompetence or fate or bad luck, but he's come out as a loser.
Or a fighter, because he's continuing, isn't he?
He's still lost.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the Press Preview. With me once again, the Associate Editor of the Daily Mirror, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail columnist, Amanda Platell. Lots to pack in, including what's happened to Labour in the Commons this afternoon. Given this is your neck of the woods, do you want to...
and of course it will be leading most papers, it will be leading the news on almost any other day. But there we are, there was a huge revolt against Keir Starmer's line, no ceasefire. 56 Labour MPs defying him. That's more than a quarter of the parliamentary party, and he's got 8 frontbenchers who have now been deemed to
go. Jess Phillips, who is probably the best known of them all.
One of the greatest communicators Labour have.
Yeah.
The anti-domestic abuse spokeswoman, and 2 bag carriers, PPSs, have gone. It's a big blow.
And it's also a huge challenge to Keir Starmer's authority, because it was a 3-line whip. They knew how important this was. I feel very sorry for people like... the only one I sort of vaguely know is Jess, and I know that she's an incredibly principled woman and would have thought long and hard about this. And in the end, she put her principles before the stability of her government, because this will be interpreted now as an own goal. I bet you if Rishi drank, he would be popping champagne corks tonight, seeing that unfold, because suddenly the agenda's gone away from Rwanda, and it's gone onto Gaza and onto this rebellion. And it is a huge rebellion and a challenge for his authority.
Big. Others like Naz Shah, Sarah Oat, they would have had a very high expectation of being ministers in a Labour government in a year should Labour win the election. So when you rebel and you know you're going to pay that price, and you now probably not become a minister when Labour win, it shows you the strength of feeling over this, not calling for a ceasefire, calling humanitarian pause as Labour strengthens its position.
But politically,
but it's not calling for a ceasefire.
It jeopardises and weakens Keir Starmer on what should have been a triumphant day for him, disaster over Rwanda. It should have been his day.
OK, we're going to move on to inflation, if you don't mind. It's fallen to a 2-year low. Obviously, just because inflation falls does not mean that prices are not going up still, which means it's still a difficult winter for many people.
Yeah, so... You can let me speak first. My God. Let me catch my breath. The good news about this is that it means that there is even reported in some of the papers this morning that a number of the major banks are already doing a Christmas bonus offer to reduce mortgages. So even though it may not come in, and not everyone in the world, everyone in the country has a mortgage, obviously, but there have been people who've been hit really, really hard, and it looks as though those, especially fixed rate interests, are going to be brought down by Christmas. So at least someone's going to get it. And Rishi did keep his promise.
He has. He's now hit. It's the first of his 5 goals he's hit. It might be the only goal he hits by the end of the year. But nevertheless, it's a big fall from 6.7 to 4.6. But he's not going to stop those boats. But as you say, prices are still going up. They're not going up as fast as they were. Still more than double the Bank of England's rate. But it's a bit of relief.